So Rigetti stock has surged 1,600% in 6 months, and analysts are warning of a downside. With a lot of growth potential, some heavy losses as well, and high volatility, is this quantum computing stock in a buy or is it in a bubble? Let's break it down. Hopefully, you guys are having a great day today. The thing that we're looking at here, our portfolio's down about 0.5% on the day. We actually got into Rigetti stock trading live this morning. We're up about $140. Almost at one point, I think we're at close to $200 profit. Buying Rigetti stock at market open in our live session in Stockmate. If you'd like to be there every day at market open, it's the second link down below. But we basically bought some of this dip. There was a lot of swings that we could have played, but Rigetti stock up about 3% today. It's hovering between this consolidation zone. It's holding above this previous resistance. This is why it's so important. When you look at Rigetti stock's history, you can see that it is consolidating from left to right. Basically from January 20th until today, it's been consolidating left to right. And the reality is that in this consolidation, if you just kind of get rid of these levels, you might think, oh, it's just a normal consolidation, but it's actually indicating some bearish moment or bullish momentum. The reason why is because first we had this big spike. It went up to, what was that, $15 or $16.20, and then it sold down to basically $11.50. And then for about a week, it was just going sideways between this support and resistance. You can see the support here around 12 bucks, and then around 13.50 resistance. But recently, it's been establishing this previous resistance as a support. And today, when we got in, we even had to ride a little bit of this dip here, and we said, hey, let's just be patient. This is a previous support that we hear, or previous resistance that will act as a support. And sure enough, it bounced, it continued up, it's holding above the EMA, and it's looking pretty bullish. This position right now, if the trade goes according to plan, could be $1,000 trade. Right now, it's just about 100, but we'll see how things play out as we get into the second half of this week. When you look at Rigetti stock, there's quantum computing developments that are happening in the industry. Rigetti is kind of a full stack company where they do the software, they're building out their software and infrastructure for cloud, so you can tap into the computers through the cloud. They also are really big on hardware. They've been improving the fidelity of the qubits. They've been really grinding, and you see them in the top 4, top 5 of the smaller companies. You got IONQ there. The market's growing quite significantly. I think I had some notes here that I wrote down from just recently doing some deep dives on what was the outlook in the near term for Rigetti. What we saw is that the quantum computing space, we know it has a lot of long-term growth potential, but the near-term volatility is absolutely insane. That's why we're trading it. And this company is seeing a lot of support right here around $13.50. And it really just validated that today. So what that means is when we have a previous resistance act as a support, that means we're in a bullish direction. And so what that means here is we could continue to see higher highs as long as it holds this resistance here. It stays above it and potentially could continue up. If it's going to make a run to previous highs, we could potentially see it push up from here. That would kind of continue its current trend. That's about 25%. But to previous highs would be about 60%. The downside would be this previous support here, right around, what is that, 20% dip. That's possible as well. So that's why we're kind of monitoring this position, and I'll keep you guys updated on it. The long-term outlook for Rigetti stock, a lot of forecasts in the $20 to $30 range, but that's not anytime soon. A lot of that long-term price targets are in the next 5 years or more. And so it's kind of been speculative on the near term. The biggest thing that we have from Rigetti stock, outside of some comments from potentially, you heard Bill Gates possibly talk about quantum computing. You hear Sam Altman. I know for sure Bill Gates, we just heard him talk. recently about some of the developments. Because if you go to Rigetti and you want to know how to use these quantum computers, you could find them on Microsoft. Microsoft's one of the biggest ones as well. An interesting fact about so again, you can see Rigetti stock is available to tap in through the cloud, and if you go to their website, you'll find a lot of information related to their partners. So you could go see who they work with. You got NASA. You got big investors in them like Nvidia, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, AWS, Microsoft. But here's the thing. So when we look at Rigetti stock from a perspective of the market, one thing to note, one of the big players is going to be IBM. If you go to IBM Quantum, we got to talk with the vice president of IBM Quantum at CES recently, and they're invested heavily in quantum. And I believe that IBM just reported earnings, and I believe that they found that their revenue was increasing very fast in the quantum part of their business. So let's take a look. Let's see. Claims to have booked. This is 29 minutes ago. IBM claims to have booked $1 billion of cumulative quantum business. So IBM says it has booked $1 billion worth of business. The revelation followed the release of the company's Q4 of 2024 results, which saw Big Blue exceed Wall Street expectations and post quarterly revenue of $17 billion, bringing the year's revenue to $62 billion overall. However, IBM does not provide a breakdown of figures for its quantum business and its earnings reports, meaning it's not possible to know how much quarterly revenue the technology is driving for the company. You can still see that in this figure, they stated that $1 billion worth of their revenue came from their quantum computing. And this was an increase. I want to say it was like 40% increase from what they had previously seen. So you could see if you go just roughly the number of reporting quarters since the company launched its first quantum product is about $29 million. And so publicly traded quantum companies IonQ, Rigetti, and D-Wave posted combined revenues of less than 20 million. But you see IBM, they have a $1 billion figure here. And so that's quite interesting to see. You can see that, I don't know if that's combined over multiple quarters. That's an interesting fact. But I would love to see more on this article. One of the things that is going to drive the growth of Rigetti stock is going to be how much industry and market growth there is as well. So what we're looking forward to, if we look at Rigetti, there's few things that we look at normally is the financials, the technicals, and we'll look at the news. But when you look at Rigetti and you search the stock and you go to the news right now, a lot of what we have, so 1 day ago, 3 days ago, a lot of it is pretty hype article, trending stock, people talking about some trending. Here's Quantum Leap could change everything, Rigetti computing stock in focus. That's maybe a more based on fundamentals. It seems like it. If you go down into the article, and someone says the other day, they said, Will, sometimes it seems like you're just going through articles, and I want to hear the answers right now. Let me tell you, if you wanted to find something out, you can go ask ChatGPT and figure it out right now. Go by all means. The issue is, in the past, when you would do research on companies, and look, I'm always building my knowledge base of these companies. We've been covering the stock for a couple months, but in the past, you would have to go to Google and search it, and Google would say, okay, you're trying to learn this. Here's a million different articles that you can do the research and decide for yourself what you think about this topic. That's good. But nowadays, people want to know an answer and they search it on ChatGPT and they get the answer. And what is ChatGPT 100% true? Does that just mean whatever ChatGPT says is true? No. if ChatGPT is based on articles from Google, and we know that a lot of the articles here are hype articles, and some of them are also bear articles, that these stocks, like two popular quantum stocks, could drop 52% and 77% according to Wall Street. I mean, these are meant to drive attention. And so they're not actually, forgive me, the Motley Fool or Yahoo Finance, they're not actually here to provide as much value, but more to gain attention. Does that make sense? So that's why we actually go through the articles. I don't want a generalized language model to pull everything from Yahoo and from Motley. Let's go directly to the sources. Let's see what's happening in the sources and see what people are talking about. And so that's why we can't go through a lot of these news articles, because they're hype. And if you want a quick answer and you don't want to see me go through and do the research every day on these stocks, go use ChatGPT. With all due respect and all power to you. So let's get to Rigetti directly on their website. I think we were here. So they have their AWS, Microsoft, and you can see Google Cloud, I believe, that they're distributing through. And if we go through their website, it's really helpful to know how their quantum computer works. You could go check that out. But when we look at some of the things that we can just see off the top, right now you can order a 9-qubit QPU and it's ready to ship today. That's interesting. If we decided we want to order that right now, what does that look like? There's a whole video telling you how it works, how you can order your own quantum computer. They're going to send this to you. I want to say they actually put the price on here. From $900,000, you can order it. And it'll be there in 4 to 6 weeks. That's pretty epic. So that's something to note. It's not like they're working on it. No, they're not only are they actually allowing access to the cloud and things like that, they're also shipping them out to people. That's actually important. That's a difference between having a prototype and something you're working on and something that you're confident to be able to offer to the public that will provide value to businesses or institutions or educational research projects, that they can buy these right now. There will be startups that most likely are buying them and using them, and we'll have to see what that looks like in their quarter earnings coming up here. Now, when we look at their news, if we go to investors, we might see some news here. Some of their news recently, January was the latest one. January 10th, they had the Needham conference. You got to see the CEO talk. A lot of iterations that I would say were kind of just regurgitating that they're focusing on improving the fidelity of the qubits and focusing. It's like if you have let's say that you have what's a good way to think about this? If you have a garden and you're trying to, let's say, grow a bunch of tomatoes, if you're trying to grow a bunch of tomatoes, before you grow a huge amount of tomatoes, a massive amount of tomatoes, you probably want to make sure that you're growing the tomatoes right and that they taste really good and that you don't have a bunch of tomatoes that just taste bad and that aren't good. And so by focusing on getting each tomato plant very good, you're going to then make the whole garden is going to produce you a lot more revenue if you're selling your crops, or it's just going to be a lot tastier and a lot healthier and more consistent. It's going to give you more of the results that you want if you're trying to have, let's say you're making a tomato sauce. And the same thing's true with quantum computing. If it's not so much about how many qubits you have. If you have all these qubits, there's some 1,000-qubit quantum computers and things like that, and that's cool. But when it comes to the focus of Rigetti, they're saying we're just going to focus on making each qubit as good as possible, as optimized, and as with as least errors as possible, just the most consistent and high quality qubits as we can. and then we can expand from there. And I think that's, that's a really good way to look at it. And they're most likely going to advance much faster because of that mindset. Because if they're always thinking about how they can improve their qubits, it's going to be the same thing with how you have DeepSeek come along and compete with ChatGPT, as opposed to DeepSeek saying, how can we use more data centers and more GPUs and use more AI infrastructure and tap into more computing power. Instead, they said, well, how can we just improve the code that's like very, like, it's actually cheaper, but we're going to just get really good at the code and the prompts and the software side, and maybe we won't actually need so much data hardware. Maybe we won't need so much data centers. Same thing's true here. It's like if they get the qubits very good, high performing, they're not going to need so much so many qubits or big quantum computers or things like that. They can actually optimize. They can optimize more. And so that's something that I think is really important to note. Some of their partnerships, I think we saw NASA was there. You could see their, I would say, not pre-revenue, but definitely pre-profit. They've been making revenue for sure. But when we get into their financials, but the thing about the financials is that they don't really jive how some people would like to see the financials jiving. We'll have to see what happens. If we look kind of quarter over quarter, the revenue, I wouldn't say that it's increasing. It's been actually, from a year ago, it's actually kind of decreasing. But the net income it seems like it's shrinking. So you see, like back in March, it was like negative 20 million. But like when we get to June, it's negative 12. And then recently it's negative 14. And then some of their biggest investors that you have to think about they see the earnings per share missing, they see the revenue missing. You got Nvidia, and then you got BlackRock, you have Vanguard, Charles Schwab, and State Street, I believe it is, investing in this company. So what we're going to see, and I'm really excited to look at their upcoming earnings, but what we're doing now is we're trading the volatility. It went from 70 cents up to $21. The volatility is tremendous. But the thing about Rigetti in this near term is that we want to see more of a emphasis on the revenue that they're generating through the cloud. Because if we go, like, let's say we go over to Rigetti, Microsoft, and we take a look at how you could tap into this computer through the cloud via Microsoft or via AWS, I want to know that is going to, I want to see how this could potentially impact revenue. I want to see how they're plugging into businesses, and that's going to be a key indicator that will drive this price further. Look at that. So if it continues in the direction at 65%, down here, there's downside for sure. That's why we're playing these swings on the near term and then holding some that we got in back here pre-December. Must have been right around here. Yeah, we got between a $5 and $10 holding on Rigetti. So we're going to be monitoring it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you'd like to get access to see us trade live each and every day, I would encourage you to check out the second link below. If I earned a thumbs up, hit that like button. Do consider subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.